devotees. It's nice to see you face to face, even with mask wearing and social distancing. It's nice to be back in Prabhupada's library. This? It's working. Acha. Om Ganat Miranda Shah Ganagana Salakaya Chakshamaritamiena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitamyena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dadati Swaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukta Parakamalam Shri Gurum Vaisnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Varagnatam Pitam Stam Sajivam Sabadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Sayitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Parasahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhi Vrindavan Eswari Vishabhanu Sutta Devi Panamami Hari Parade Vancha Kapil Sarubias Chai Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaisnavyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Asari Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today we're reading from Bhagavad-Gita as it is. We're reading from chapter 7, entitled Knowledge of the Absolute. And we're in text 7. I'm doing text 7. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Mataparataram Nanyad Kinchirasti Dhananjaya Mai Sarvamidam Protam Sutramani Gana Iva Mataparatram Nanyad Kinchirasti Dhananjaya Mai Sarvamidam Protam Sutre Mani Gana Iva Matapataram Nanyad Kinchirasti Dhananjaya Mai Sarvamidam Protam Sutre Mani Gana Iva. Devotees. Mata Parantaram Nanyad Kinchirasti Dhananjaya Mai Sarvamidam Protam Sute Mani Gana Iva. Mata Parataram Nanyad Kinchirasti Dhananjaya Mai Sarvamidam Protam Sutre Mani Ganaiva. Word for word. Mataha, beyond me. Parataram, superior. Na, not. Anyat kinchit, anything else. Asti, there is. Dhananjaya, O conqueror of wealth. Mai, in me. Sarvam, all that be. Idam, which we see. Protam, is strung. Sutre, on a thread. Manigana, pearls. Eva, like. O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. Please repeat. O conqueror of wealth,
O conqueror of the world,
there is no truth superior to me.
there is no truth superior to me.
Everything rests upon me
Everything rests upon me
as pearls are strung on a thread.
as pearls strung on a thread.
So purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Srila Prabhupada. There is a common controversy over whether the Supreme Absolute Truth is personal or impersonal. As far as Bhagavad-Gita is concerned, the Absolute Truth is the person of Godhead, Sri Krishna. And this is confirmed in every step. In this verse in particular, it is stressed that the Absolute Truth is a person, that the personality of Godhead is the Supreme Absolute Truth is also the affirmation of the Brahma Samhita. Ishvara Parama Krishna Shakshirananda Vigraha. That is, the Supreme Absolute Truth, personality of Godhead, is Lord Krishna, who is the primeval Lord, the reservoir of all pleasure, Govinda, and the eternal form of complete bliss and knowledge. These authorities leave no doubt that the Absolute Truth is the Supreme Person, the cause of all causes. The impersonalist, however, argues on the strength of the Vedic version given in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad 3.10. Tato yad uttarataram tad arupam anamayam yadi tad viduram amritaste bhavanti atitare dukkam iva priyanti. In the material world, Brahma, the primeval living entity within the universe, is understood to be the supreme amongst the demigods, human beings, and lower animals. But beyond Brahma, there is a transcendence who has no material form and is free from all material contaminations. Anyone who can know him also becomes transcendental, but those who do not know him suffer the miseries of the material world. The impersonalist puts more stress on the word arupam, but this arupam is not impersonal. It indicates the transcendental form of eternity, bliss, and knowledge, as described in the Brahma Samhita quoted above. Other verses in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad 3:8-9 substantiate this as follows. Vedaham itam purusham mahantam aditya varnam tamasa parastat tameva vidit bhati mityum eti nanya panti vidyate yanaya yasmat param na param asti kanchit yasmin nanyo na jo sti kanchit viksha eva stabdo divitastatikas tenedam pranam purushena sarvam. I know that Supreme Person of Godhead, who is transcendental to all material conceptions of darkness, only he who knows him can transcend the bonds of birth and death. There is no way for liberation other than this knowledge of that Supreme Person. There is no truth superior to that Supreme Person, because he is the supermost. He is smaller than the smallest, and he is greater than the greatest. He is situated as a silent tree, and he illumines the transcendental sky. And as a tree spreads its roots, he spreads his extensive energies. From these verses, one concludes that the Supreme Absolute Truth is the Supreme Person of Godhead, who is all-pervading by his multi-energies, both material and spiritual. This is a very nice verse. This, O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung from a string. So, in chapter 6, Krishna explains to Arjuna the different types of yogis and the results of their practice, where they go, what happens to them. in their practice. So in the last verse, in verse 47, that's when Krishna begins talking about bhakti-yoga. He gets into it. He says, Yoginam api sarvesham madgatana tar atmana shadavan bhajate yomam same yuktatamo mataha. And of all yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. So at the end of the chapter, he establishes what is the highest process in trying to go back to Godhead. And he does this throughout the Bhagavad-Gita, actually. He's giving, all the information that we need to know the difference, of different paths and what's happening in the world, and given all these details that we need to know. But in the end analysis, it comes down to worshiping him and in devotional service without motivation. So we're in chapter 7, which is the first chapter in the section that talks about bhakti-yoga. So the bhakti-yoga process is kind of sandwiched in the middle of the Gita. The first chapters 1 through 6, Krishna talks about karma yoga. And then in texts 13 through 18, he covers Gyan yoga. But this section is like the jewel that's hidden within the Gita. Because bhakti yoga is a culmination of all practices. And as Prabhupada used to say, why take the steps when you can take the elevator? So the middle section categorically directs surrender until Krishna as the goal and the essence of all the teachings of the Bhagavad-Gita. So Krishna, in the beginning of this chapter, Krishna says in verse 2 that he's given the supreme knowledge. He says, I shall declare to you in full the knowledge both phenomenal and numinous. Then Krishna tells Arjuna, once you know this, there's nothing else to know. This is the epitome of what you need to know. So we know that phenomenal and numinous means phenomenal, it deals with matter, and numinous is spiritual. And we know that this also throughout the Gita, Krishna says that this is the highest knowledge. So, and we all know this verse from 9:2. 9 is called entitled the most confidential knowledge. So it's Raja Vidya, Raja Guyam, Pavitram Idam Uttamam, Pryakshaksha Gamam Dharmyam, Sa Sukham Kartum Avyayam. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed. So the first thing Krishna says to Arjuna, he says, in the text 1 of chapter 7, he says, Tak Shrinu. Now hear, O son of Pritha. So what is this hearing? Hearing, what type of hearing? We have to be submissive to hear. We have to hear from the right person. And we have to, submissive, not to challenge in a challenging manner. That way you won't get anywhere. So this hearing is the first and foremost practice in this process, in devotional service. And it also, not only hearing lectures, or hearing from the spiritual master, or hearing from devotees, hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and all the Vedic literatures, but also when we're chanting, we're told by Srila Prabhupada we should hear the chanting. We should chant clearly, enunciate clearly, and hear the Mahamantra. So this hearing is very paramount. In chapter 6 of verse 35, Prabhupada says in the purport, this hearing is very powerful transcendental method for purging the mind of all misgivings. So what does purging mean? Purging means a deep cleansing. It's a cleansing, it's a purifying. So this hearing will clean our heart of all the dust that's gathered there from millions and millions of births and deaths in this material world. There's so much dirt collected here that we have to hear constantly. And we have to hear repeatedly. That's why, we don't manufacture anything. We repeat what we've heard. So we repeat what we've heard. We hear, we repeat what we've heard. So in that way, we keep hearing it again and again, so to really go deep into our hearts. And it says, the more one hears about Krishna, the more one becomes enlightened and detached from everything that draws the mind away from Krishna. He calls hearing as expert treatment for the mad mind. So we know, we've all had experience with our minds, so we know that the mind can definitely be crazy. So, at least for me, I can say that it takes great effort to control the mind. And I don't know what chapter it is, but Arjuna says how difficult it is to control the mind. It's like trying to control the wind. How can you control the wind? So Arjuna is hearing attentively from Krishna as he speaks this knowledge. So in this verse, Krishna is revealing more about himself, about his energies and his all-pervasiveness. He talks about his inferior material energy and his superior material energy. So what are the material energies? Can someone tell me, what are the material energies? The elements. Okay. Fire, earth.
Fire, earth, water, ether.
Yes, ether, air, and so on, right? But his superior energy consists of,
Mind, intelligence, ego.
yes, that's the subtle energies, right? His subtle material energies. So the superior energies are us, the jivas. But our problem is we are prone to be conditioned by the three modes of material nature. And this is what produces our suffering. So in the first part of the text, Krishna unequivocally says that there's no truth superior to me. So this speaks to his power and his supremacy. And I've heard, in the religious circles that I've been around, in my quest to find the truth, I've heard, different religious sects talk about Krishna's glory. But nobody really knows, in particular, what is his glory. They know that he's great, but what is that greatness? What can they say about his greatness? Prabhupada has given us everything that we need to know about Krishna. We've got it from our spiritual master as well. What we need to know about Krishna and what we need to know about how to surrender to him. What is the process? So, as I said before, due to the mercy of our spiritual masters, we know, about Krishna's Aishvarya aspect, and we also know about his Madhurya aspect, his majesty and his sweetness. So in this verse, I like to pick up on this analogy about everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. So I find it, I find this very poetic. And we were all those pearls. And pearls are very rare. So what is rare about a pearl? Pearls are very, very difficult to get. First, I'll just give a little trivia first about pearls, how they're produced. Does anyone know how pearls are produced? Okay. The pearls come from shellfish, from an oyster. And the way the pearls are formed is in irritants, something that irritates the shellfish gets into his shell. And most of the time it's a parasite. And what happens is in defense, the shellfish starts building some material around this irritant, this parasite. And he uses it, this substance that he puts around this irritant is his defense mechanism. So it just builds up, and the pearl takes from 6 months, sometimes to 4 years to develop. So this analogy that Krishna is giving is very deep, because he's talking about all of his entities. We are the pearls in that thread. We are his pearls. And so this makes the pearls very valuable, which means we are very, very valuable to Krishna. Every living entity has value in the eyes of Krishna. So when we look at a pearl necklace, and we see each pearl, it's part of the whole. There's unity in the formation of the necklace. There's individuality, because all the pearls are not identical. They're all different. And we're all connected, you know. So each of us has a unique place in Krishna's necklace. And we are meant to decorate him. So we can see, you know, when we look at the pastimes, pictures of Krishna's pastimes, we can see that every element in that picture in the spiritual world has a position there. They have a service to offer to Krishna. We can see when Krishna is sitting in the circle with his cowherd boyfriends, you know, each one says that Krishna is looking at me. And actually, even with us, Krishna pays individual attention to each and every one of us. You know, he's carefully guiding us and giving us his attention. But we see in the material world, it's not like that. In the material world, there's always differentiation. There's always, you know, class disputes. There's always wars. There's just something simple like if you go to some big event or some big program, the most important people are given the seats in the front. You know, but with Krishna, everything is on the absolute plane. Everyone is just as important. Whether he's, you know, mopping the floor of the temple, or whether he's cooking, whether he's going out on Sankirtan, whether he's a pujari, or whether he's the temple president. Krishna's energies in all the service that we do is absolute. There's no hierarchy like that. There's etiquette, because we have to have etiquette in order to associate properly with one another. But we're all very important to Krishna, and he pays attention to each and every one of us, specifically. And we're only important in so much as we want to decorate Krishna. Other than that, we have no importance. We have a place on that necklace that he's talking about in here, the thread. And so if there's one pearl missing from the thread, it's useless. We can't wear it. You know, you can't use it because, you know, some of the pearls are missing. So the next consideration is the thread. Who is that thread? So Krishna is like the thread. And how is Krishna like the thread? Can someone say? Can someone tell me, how is Krishna like the thread? Okay, so Krishna is supporting, and he's sustaining, and he's holding everything up. And the sign of a well-made necklace is that you can't see the thread. So the nature of this material world is that the scientists, the philosophers, and all those who claim to have so much knowledge and are thinking, they keep looking and looking and looking for Krishna, coming up with various theories about the existence of God or whether he really exists. But they can't find him. They can't find the thread. And Krishna reserves the right not to be known by everyone. But Krishna knows each and every one of us intimately. In verse 26 of this chapter, he says, Vedaham samati tanni vartapmani karjuna bhavishyanti chabhutani mantu veda na kaschana. Arjuna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything that has happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but me, no one knows. So the Lord cannot be known by mundane knowledge. It's impossible. It's only when he decides, as the Supreme Controller, he decides. He cannot be, and he cannot be proven by logic or argument. I mean, as you know, like material, being in the material energy, those persons, there's some people who think they can wrap their head around Krishna, around knowing about Krishna, you know. But if they think they can figure Krishna out, that means that they're trying to be God, you know, and with their small brain matter, how can they figure out who is Krishna? How can they understand the deepness of his glories? It's not possible. It's like in the material world, for instance, you have someone who's a computer expert, okay? So that person can bring a computer, he's an expert, he can tell you every part, he can take it apart and tell you everything about that computer that you want to know. But unless we are connected to the right source, we cannot understand Krishna at all. He cannot be known by any of our so-called technology. It's not possible. It's only possible when we surrender. So the thread that runs through every living entity, that runs through the pearls, we are the pearls of Krishna's necklace. That devotee who sees the pearls, then he understands, you know, that Krishna is in everyone. He sees Krishna in everything because he sees that person as a pearl on Krishna's necklace. And Krishna is like a thread. He's in the core of all of our hearts. He intimately knows each and every one of us as individuals better than we know ourselves. In the Gita 4.5, Krishna tells Arjuna, many, many births have both you and I passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy. Then again in Gita 13.3, he says, I'm the knower in all bodies. We only know our own bodies. We don't know anybody else, what's happening in anybody else's body. It takes a lot of communication just to understand anyone at all. You know, we have to work at trying to communicate. But Krishna intimately knows everything about each and every one of us. And in Prabhupada's introduction to the Bhagavad-Gita, he says that because Krishna lives in our heart, he is conscious of the psychic movement of the particular jiva. And then in Bhagavad-Gita 15:15, Sarvasya aham hiri sanivishto matashmita ganam apoham cha. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So, you know, we can look around in nature and see, you know, how the sun rises and sets, you know, on time, all the time. How all the planets stay in their orbit. Have you ever thought about how does the ocean stay where it is? You know, you have the beach and then you have the ocean. What keeps the ocean in its boundaries? I was thinking about that yesterday and I was like, that's a good question. You know, it's Krishna, you know. And even, you know, you see, okay, for instance, flock of birds like geese, they fly. They go from Canada to Mexico. And there's no signs, you know, like when we're driving on the road, there's a sign saying turn here, turn there, you see your destination, how many miles it is. But they don't. They just make their formation. And they know where to stop and how to go. And they follow their leader, they go, okay? So it's the super soul in the heart that's guiding them. We can see so many instances of Krishna being the controller, you know? So those persons who don't believe there is a God are actually mudhas, as Prabhupada says. Because no one has the ability to control any of those, you know, movements that happen. So we can see, you know, if we're observant, that everything is Krishna. Everything is Krishna's, under Krishna's control. He's guiding all the species. We can't, okay, say you want to get in a car and you have a destination, it's 1,000 miles. Can you go without the GPS? We need a GPS in order to find our way, you know? And I was saying that in relationship to, you know, the migration of species. Or, for instance, I don't know if this is the name, there's a name of a fish that, salmons, that, you know, like, go from one ocean to the next ocean, they migrate. Or you can see baby turtles. The mother leaves the turtles on the sand buried, but they find their way, once they hatch, they find their way to the ocean. All of this is a super soul. So Krishna, so this analogy of the pearls on a thread, if the thread breaks, then the pearls get scattered and the pearls get lost. They become disconnected from the source, which is the thread. And Krishna is the thread. So Krishna is calling each and every one of us. And he's calling us with his flute. And he's calling us in 5 ways. He's calling us through his devotees. He's calling us through his deity form. He's coming here just to give us the opportunity to serve him. He's here. He's calling us in his holy name. Because his holy name is him. He's calling his living entities in his holy name. He's calling us in the pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the Bhagavad-Gita. When we have a problem, it's been my experience, when I have a problem, I have an issue, I pick up either the Srimad Bhagavatam or I pick up the Gita. And invariably, it answers my problem. It addresses exactly what it is I'm dealing with. And I feel solace that Krishna has spoken to me about what I need to do or how I need to see something. You know, so that way he's calling us through the pages of the Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then he's calling us through the Holy Dham, which can be compared to the embassy, to the spiritual world. So we just need to tune in to the call of Krishna, to his flute. And actually, Krishna wants us back more than we want to go back. Because he's missing us. He's having his leelas, and we are not taking the part that we are assigned. We're somewhere else, thinking we're enjoying. But he's missing us because he sees a gap in, his leela and where we should be. He's seeing that person is missing. They're missing. I'm missing them. So Krishna is so very kind. And we've all had instances where we have to say that Krishna is very, very kind. He's so kind to us. So I'm going to end it on that note of Krishna wanting us to come home, come back to him, and be with him in his Leela. Again, become part of that pearl on his thread. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions, comments, corrections? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you for your deep and enthusiastic class in this class. I would like to know when we search for Krishna in our heart, they are the nirvana. So this space inside where we are with Krishna, and nothing can attain us. And when the moment of death, we pass and cross the difference. We go to Vaikuntha and until Goloka. And I want to know if we have to have an anxiety or not at all.
Have anxiety?
Yes, like at the moment where everything will stop and we will go out, or will be then the pier will disappear, or the pier will continue on the same trade, or at the moment of death, that we have an anxiety on.
Devotees don't need to have anxiety about leaving the body. Krishna's going to make all arrangements. We can see, as examples, Srila Prabhupada's disciples, even disciples who, may have left the movement or stopped their service or supposedly fell down. There's so many stories of, Prabhupada coming to get them. I have stories of even my Guru Maharaj saying that he's coming to get someone. I had a godbrother in Australia, and he found out he had cancer. So when his condition really deteriorated, my Guru Maharaj came in a dream to one of his friends, and he told his friend, "I'm coming to get Jai Vijay." You know? So if we maybe I think it's good to have complete faith, especially in the spiritual master, because he's the via medium. He's the via medium. That's why he came to get you. He came as his mission to pick up those lost souls. And also, I had another godbrother who was in the hospital waiting for a heart transplant. And my Guru Maharaj went to visit him, and he told my godbrother, because my godbrother was in anxiety, he told him, don't worry, I'll be with you in the transition. Which has really cemented my faith that when it's time for me to leave my body, my Guru Maharaj is come and get me. And I'll tell also a story about one Srila Prabhupada. I know several, but this one I remember more. It was a particular disciple who had left. He had been a sannyas, but he fell and he left. And, you know, whatever the material world really, you know, dealt with him. But on his deathbed, when, you know, he was unconscious, but at one point he woke up and he sat up in the bed and he said, "Srila Prabhupada, you're here." So the service that we render is never forgotten by Krishna or the spiritual master. That's the most important part. It's in our spiritual bank account, what we've tried to do, even in the, is it Ishopanishad, I think, where one of the mantras that's near the end says that there's a mantra that says, "Ask the Lord, please remember all that I have done for you." And Krishna will remember. He's not remembering all the bad things you did, because he's remembering all the effort you made to try to approach him. So we needn't be in anxiety, and all arrangements, from what I have seen, my experience has been, all arrangements are already made. You have the devotees, they come and chant for you. You know, you have, you know, someone there to put tulsi in. All the arrangements are already there. It's the example of the kitten, the mother kitten, the mother cat picks up the kitten with her teeth and brings him from one point to another. She takes him to safety because maybe he's wandering off. But when the cat picks up a rat, that's different. So Krishna is the one who picks up his kittens and brings them gently back home. And I've seen, and I've been at a lot of passings of the devotees, and they look very peaceful. Does that answer your questions? Thank you. Any other question? Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, you were giving the example of whenever the mind is disturbed, you read Bhagavad-Gita or Bhagavad-Gita answer.
Yes.
That is true, and at the back of Gita also, our Father Nation Mahatma Gandhi also has written this same thing.
Yes.
Whenever the mind is disturbed, you take Gita, you can answer.
Yes.
And usually I meet many people and I tell them, you see, your life will change, you read Bhagavad-Gita.
Yes.
And when they read, they are very much satisfied. Yes, whatever you say is correct.
Yes.
So they get the answer
Yes.
for their whatever the disturbance they are having or whatever the mind going in the mind.
Yes.
Usually I teach them in that manner that you read Bhagavad-Gita, you see whatever is in your mind, it will answer you.
Yes.
And when they get, they understand, yes, this is the truth, then they will get Gita and they
Yes.
understand whatever is there is just.
Thank you. It's true. So when we are trying to distribute the Gita, we tell them this will solve all the problems of your life. It solves all the problems of your life. Any other questions or comments? Okay. I thank all of you for coming to the Gita class.
Yeah,
Please accept my obeisances.